My brother stole our father's entire life insurance payout, $350,000 meant for both of us. While he flaunted his new Tesla and fake business, I stayed quiet and built something real. 2 years later, I bought his dream house right out from under him, cash. And when he saw me signing the deed, I handed him something that shattered his world. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's about legacy, loyalty, and the cost of betrayal. You won't believe how it ends. When people talk about family, they usually paint this picture of warmth, shared meals, and unconditional love. That wasn't my family. I was raised by a single father, a grease-stained, no-nonsense man who ran a modest auto repair shop on the edge of town. My mom walked out when I was 5, and after that, it was just the three of us: Dad, my older brother Jake, and me. Jake was the kind of guy everyone loved at first glance. He had this magnetic smile, knew how to say the right thing, and somehow always slid out of trouble with a wink and a joke. Me? I was the quiet one. I spent most of my free time with Dad in the shop, learning how to pull apart carburetors and rewire busted taillights. By the time I was 16, I could diagnose an engine problem by sound alone. But no matter how much I helped, Jake was the star. Always had been. Teachers, neighbors, even Dad, they all got suckered in. Jake talked big dreams, real estate ventures, app startups, flipping cars the smart way, which meant doing nothing and taking credit. Meanwhile, I was the one getting my hands dirty. It used to bother me watching Jake breeze through life while I stayed grounded, always the backup singer to his main act. But as I got older, I made peace with it. I figured life would sort itself out eventually. Good work matters. Loyalty matters. Family, I thought, would balance out in the end. Then came Dad's cancer. It hit fast and hard. 1 month he was joking about retirement, the next he was signing DNR forms. I took time off from the shop to drive him to appointments, handle meds, make sure he ate something other than saltines. Jake showed up once a week, usually with a latte and a new excuse. I remember this one moment: Dad was half asleep, for in his arm, and Jake was talking to him in the hallway. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I saw Jake's hand on Dad's shoulder, his voice low and serious. When I walked over, they both went quiet. I chalked it up to grief. Now I know better. After Dad passed, we buried him on a rainy Tuesday. No big crowd, just a few friends, 2 of our mechanics, and silence. I held it together, standing next to Jake like we were some united front. I thought, despite everything, we could start fresh. That night, we went back to the shop. I still remember the hum of the fluorescent lights, the smell of oil and rubber and loss. Jake cracked open a beer and handed me one. To Dad, he said. We clinked bottles. I asked him if he'd talked to the lawyer. He shrugged. Yeah, pretty simple stuff. You get the shop, I get the insurance. I paused. What insurance? Jake raised an eyebrow, like I just asked if water was wet. The life policy. You know, $350. I'm the beneficiary. I stared at him, blinking. I thought it was split. He smirked. It was. But Dad changed it last month. Said you were getting the business, and I should get the cash. Made sense, right? Balanced. I said nothing. My throat tightened. Jake leaned back in the chair. Come on, man. Be grateful. This money's gonna help me build something big. For both of us. You'll see. I nodded slowly, like I understood. But inside, something snapped. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just clean. Like the pop of a lug nut coming loose after you've been twisting in silence for too long. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in my small apartment above the shop, staring at the ceiling, the words running on a loop in my head. You get the shop. I get the cash. He said it like it was fair. Like we were 2 kids divvying up candy. But here's the thing, this shop wasn't a prize. It was work. It was responsibility. It was bills, payroll, taxes, broken lifts, angry customers, oil spills at 10 p.m. It was love, yeah, but hard-earned love. I'd been here every weekend since I was 12, learning the ropes. Jake? He showed up for photo ops. And the life insurance? That wasn't just money. That was Dad's last gift. His attempt to make sure we were okay. Safe. That we could breathe after burying him. Jake turned it into a down payment on a Tesla. I didn't confront him. That's not how I operate. I don't yell. I don't throw punches. I just watch. And remember. 2 days later, Jake posted a selfie from a rooftop pool, captioned, "Work hard, play harder." #grindset. I stared at it until my thumbs started to cramp. I could have sued. Contested the change. But the will was airtight. Legal. And besides, fighting Jake in court would be like wrestling a snake, pointless and bloody. So I did what I've always done. I went back to work. I started by fixing everything Dad had let slide during his last year: new lifts, fresh paint, cleaned out the junk in the parts room. I hired 2 apprentices from the local tech school and trained them myself. I rebranded the shop, new logo, new website, offered mobile diagnostics and late-night emergency repairs. We started getting 5-star reviews from people who had never heard of us before. Meanwhile, Jake's marketing agency kicked off with a leased downtown loft and a launch party he streamed on Instagram Live. I tuned in out of morbid curiosity. It was all buzzwords and ring lights. No clients in sight. A month later, I drove past his apartment building, luxury high-rise with valet parking. He waved at me from his balcony, holding a glass of wine like he was Gatsby. I waved back and kept driving. Inside, I burned. But I didn't let it show. 6 months passed. The shop was breaking records. I brought in a fleet contract with a local delivery company. Hired 2 more full-time techs. Built a scheduling system from scratch that tripled efficiency. Jake, on the other hand, was now pitching crypto webinars and consulting for influencers who didn't exist. I knew because he called me one night, slurring his words, asking if I wanted to partner up. Said we could be unstoppable if I let him handle branding while I did the boring stuff. I told him I'd think about it. I didn't. A year passed. The gap widened. My shop became one of the top-rated garages in the state. Jake stopped posting selfies. His car got keyed. Rumors started flying: missed rent, angry clients, a shouting match in a Starbucks. Then he showed up at the shop. I was under a Civic, hands covered in grease, when I saw his shoes, shiny, white, totally impractical for a garage. I slid out and wiped my hands. "Nice place," he said, glancing around like he'd never really seen it before. "Looks busy." "It is," I said. "What do you need?" He looked sheepish. Not his usual smug. "I need a favor," he said. "Of course you do." He sat me down and gave me this whole pitch about synergy and growth and elevating the brand. I let him talk. 15 minutes of buzzwords and desperation. Finally, he got to the point. "I need capital. Just a bit. To pivot." I stared at him. "How much?" He shrugged. 30, 40 grand? As a partner. Equity stake. You'll make it back. I leaned back in my chair. "I thought you already got paid." 350, remember? His face twitched. "Come on, man. That money's gone. That was 2 years ago." "Exactly." I smiled politely. "I'm gonna have to pass." He stood up, jaw tight. "So you're really gonna hold a grudge? After all this time?" I didn't answer. Because it wasn't a grudge. It was a promise. Jake didn't take rejection well. He never had. When we were kids, if he lost a game, he'd claim the rules were unfair. If a girl didn't text back, she was crazy. If a teacher gave him a bad grade, they were jealous. That same logic followed him into adulthood. He wasn't broke because he made bad choices. No, he was misunderstood. Ahead of the curve. Sabotaged by haters. So after I said no, he didn't walk out angry, he left with that same fake smile mask he always wore when things didn't go his way. But I could see it cracking. 2 days later, I started getting anonymous 1-star reviews on Google. They scratched my car and denied it. Overpriced and rude owner. Don't trust these people. I checked the names, none of them were clients in our records. Then I checked the IPs. 2 of them matched the same location, Jake's building. I didn't react. Just flagged them, documented everything, and sent them to Google's support team with a formal complaint. He wanted a war. I gave him silence. Around that time, I heard he'd moved out of the luxury high-rise. Couldn't make rent anymore. He started crashing at friends' places, borrowing cars, and bouncing checks. A former roommate DM'd me on Facebook and said Jake still owed him $1,200 for utilities. Meanwhile, I was expanding the shop, added a second location in the next town over. I put a trusted apprentice in charge and visited twice a week. I'd wake up at 5 a.m., rotate between shops, get home at midnight, pass out, and do it all over again. It wasn't just about success. It was about discipline. Control. I wasn't going to become Jake, flimsy and desperate and begging people to believe in dreams built on lies. I wanted a legacy that actually stood. Then Jake called again. This time, he didn't bother with flattery. No business talk. Just raw guilt. Dad would have wanted us to work together, he said. I was silent. He kept going. You think this is what he wanted? You hold up in that damn shop while I'm out here drowning? You chose that, I said flatly. He chuckled bitterly. No. I chose to believe I could build something. That's what he taught us, right? To think big? No, I said. He taught us to finish what we start. Silence on the other end. Then, softly, I'm selling the house. My stomach turned. Jake had used part of the insurance money to buy our childhood home. The one Dad built. He didn't live there, it was a vanity project. Said he'd renovate it and flip it, but he never lifted a hammer. Now it was on the market. Interested, he asked. I'll give you a good deal. I laughed out loud. You want me to buy back Dad's house? From you? At a profit? It's business, he said weakly. Double market value is robbery, not business. I hung up. 2 months later, I got a call from a bank rep. The house had defaulted. Foreclosure. That's when the idea hit me, not just revenge. Closure. The house had meant everything to Dad. He built it with his own hands. Jake let it rot. But I could bring it back. I had the tools. The money. The right. I called the rep, asked for auction details. He gave me the date and location. I circled it on my calendar with a red marker. Jake still didn't know I knew. The auction was scheduled for a Thursday morning in a municipal hall that smelled like dust and cheap coffee. I wore my work shirt, faded blue, sleeves rolled up, grease stains on the collar. I didn't dress to impress. I came to finish something. I arrived early, scanned the list of properties. There it was, Dad's house. Lot number 47. I took a seat in the middle row, folded my arms, and waited. Jake showed up 15 minutes late. He strolled in with forced confidence, wearing a wrinkled blazer and sunglasses indoors. He looked thinner. More desperate. His swagger had a limp to it now. He hadn't seen me yet. He walked up to the clerk, leaned in, asked something. I watched her shake her head. He pulled out his phone, waved it around, whispered, smiled, got another head shake. Then he turned and scanned the room. And then he saw me. For a moment, he froze. Just paused mid-step. Like someone had unplugged him. I nodded once. No smile. No wave. He approached, voice tight. What the hell are you doing here? I could ask you the same, I said. He scoffed. This is my house. No, I said. It was Dad's. Then you let it go. His eyes flicked to the bidding sheets in my hand. You're not seriously bidding, he said. Don't be petty, man. This isn't petty. It's business. He clenched his jaw. You've got your little empire. What more do you want? I leaned in. To make sure you never touch what mattered again. He stared at me like he wanted to hit me. I didn't flinch. The bidding started. Jake tried. I'll give him that. He raised his hand confidently. But he was out of his league. I'd come with certified checks, legal ID, a cleared line from my bank. I let the auctioneer call his number once. Twice. Then I raised my hand and ended it with a bid that dropped like a hammer. Jake didn't even counter. Sold. He looked like someone had gutted him. I signed the deed right there. It was official. Outside, I found him leaning against a railing, smoking a cigarette he probably bummed from someone. He didn't look at me when I walked up. I handed him an envelope. What's this? He muttered. Something you lost, I said. The original will. Before you convinced Dad to change the insurance. He opened it. Read the first line. His face drained. It was supposed to be equal, I said. That's what Dad wanted. But you stole the money and left me with the work. So I made it worth more than your cash ever could be. He didn't say anything. Just stared at the paper like it might catch fire. I turned to leave, but paused. Oh, and Jake? He looked up. Enjoy the basement. I didn't look back after that. Owning the house felt like reclaiming something sacred, not just from Jake, but from time itself. The place had sat empty and hollow for nearly a year, windows dusty, weeds climbing the porch rails like fingers. But when I unlocked that front door, it was like stepping into a memory. The old floorboards creaked the same. The smell of sawdust and engine oil still lingered faintly in the air from the time Dad rebuilt a '68 Mustang in the garage. His workbench was still there, tucked in the back, with that same crooked vise he refused to replace. I didn't renovate it like some HGTV flip. I restored it. Room by room, weekend by weekend. Stripped wallpaper, refinished cabinets, replaced the roof with my own crew. I even patched the hole in the wall Jake punched when he was 16 and Dad grounded him for skipping school. That house carried our history, ugly parts and all. Jake texted me once after the auction. Jake, you win. Happy now? Me, was never a game. He never responded. Word got around. Mutual friends stopped mentioning him. I heard whispers he'd left town, moved in with a girlfriend across state lines. Tried starting another branding firm. Someone said he was doing Uber on the side. Meanwhile, I kept my head down. Business was steady, even boring, which, honestly, felt like luxury after the chaos of those first years. But late one night, as I was sanding the stairs in the old house, I heard a knock on the door. It was Jake. He looked worse than I expected. Thinner. Pale. Eyes sunken and tired. He was holding a backpack and a grocery bag, like he was couch hopping again. I'm not here to fight, he said. I just nodded and stepped aside. Let him in. We sat at the kitchen table. No lights except the small lamp over the stove. He glanced around, slowly. You brought it back, he said quietly. I had to, I said. You let it rot. I didn't know how to hold on to things, he admitted. I only knew how to chase them. We sat in silence for a while. Then he reached into the bag and pulled out something wrapped in an old shirt. It was Dad's watch. The one I hadn't seen since the funeral. He must have swiped it. I didn't pawn it, Jake said. Couldn't. I tried once, but couldn't go through with it. He pushed it across the table. I think you should have it. I picked it up, turned it over in my hands. The engraving on the back was still there. For every second you give it fully. I looked at Jake. He wasn't asking for forgiveness. He knew better. But maybe he was trying to give back a piece of what he stole. I didn't say thank you. I didn't invite him to stay. I just nodded once. He left without another word. And that's when I realized something. Revenge had never been the goal. It was reclamation. I didn't just want to punish him, I wanted to rebuild what he tried to erase. Our father's legacy. My own worth. The meaning behind hard work. Jake would carry his shame forever. Me? I had a home, a thriving business, and silence. And sometimes, silence is louder than any scream. Spring came, and with it, the house felt alive again. I planted new grass, fixed the old fence, replaced the battered mailbox Dad had built from scrap metal in his first year as a business owner. Neighbors stopped to chat when I worked outside, some remembered me as a kid, some didn't. But the tone was always the same, glad to see someone finally caring for the place again. Every repair felt like a conversation with my father. When I finally got the garage door working and rolled open the battered steel, I found a box I'd forgotten, old Polaroids, my grade school drawings, letters Jake and I wrote to Mom but never sent. I sat in the driveway for hours, thumbing through the pieces of a family we'd lost to pride in bad choices. I settled into a routine. Shop during the day, house repairs at night. Sometimes I'd fall asleep on the couch with blueprints in my lap and wake to the sunrise filtering through dusty blinds. The house creaked and settled, but it felt safe. Like it was rooting for me. Jake drifted even further away. His girlfriend kicked him out, according to a friend. He called once, just once, after midnight. His number popped up and I let it ring, but after, I listened to the voicemail. He was crying. He said he didn't know how to start over. He asked if I ever regretted it, taking the shop, shutting him out, winning. I deleted the message. Maybe that makes me cold. But I didn't owe Jake another rescue. Not after the lies, the manipulation, the theft of Dad's last gift. I'd spent so many years being the one to clean up, to forgive, to bend. Now I was done. One evening, I hosted a little get-together for the shop crew at the new house. We grilled out back, shared beers and stories, and I showed them the garage where it all started. Someone toasted to second chances. I raised my glass but didn't say anything. I just took it all in, the laughter, the smell of food, the feeling of earning my place. After everyone left, I wandered the empty rooms. In my old bedroom, I found Jake's initials carved into the windowsill, right beside mine. A childish mark, faded but permanent. I ran my thumb over the grooves and felt a pang of grief, not for Jake, but for the brothers we'd once been. I realized then that I didn't hate him. I just couldn't save him from himself. That was a job for someone else, or maybe no one. I set Dad's watch on my nightstand and, for the first time in years, slept without dreams. A year later, the house looked nothing like the one Jake let rot. Every corner gleamed with care, from the polished hardwood floors to the rebuilt porch swing where Dad used to drink his morning coffee. The walls were lined with old family photos I'd dug out of storage, some with Jake grinning beside me, both of us too young to know what life would throw our way. Business kept growing, and the shop became a place people trusted, not just for repairs but for advice, a friendly word, even a hot cup of coffee when the weather was bad. My staff stuck with me, some even calling the shop a second home. I paid them well, kept their schedules fair, gave bonuses when I could. I wanted them to have what Jake and I lost: stability, pride, and a place to belong. Jake never came back. He drifted from city to city, chasing schemes and burning bridges, always looking for the next shortcut. The last I heard, he'd landed in some small town out west, doing odd jobs, telling people about the business empire he almost built. We didn't talk, but sometimes I thought about reaching out. Then I'd remember the voicemail, the empty promises, the way he'd twisted Dad's love and called it ambition. Instead, I focused on the life I built, piece by piece, with my own hands. On the anniversary of Dad's death, I sat on the porch swing, watch ticking softly in my palm. I tried to imagine what he'd say if he saw me now, saw the house restored, the shop thriving, his sons grown and changed. Would he forgive Jake? Maybe. Would he be proud of me? I hoped so. There were no big epiphanies, no movie moment apologies. Just a kind of settled peace. I finally understood that legacy isn't just what you inherit, it's what you fight to protect. It's the things you refuse to let die, even when it hurts. That night, I walked through the quiet house, touched the marks Jake and I had left on the walls, the scuffs from 100 old fights and games. I stood in the garage and listened to the silence, thick, warm, almost alive. I realized I wasn't angry anymore. The house was mine, the shop was mine, but the past would always be ours, scars and all. Jake was gone, but I had something he'd never understand, contentment earned, not stolen. I locked up, set Dad's watch on the table, and turned out the lights. For the first time since the funeral, I felt ready to move on, not from what was lost, but toward whatever came next.